right, let me bring in Dakich, ESPN college basketball analyst, host of the Dan Dakich Show on The Fan in Indianapolis. Let me start there. You think Michigan would rather win the national championship in basketball or beat Ohio State this November in football?
Dan, look, I have a son that went to Michigan. I paid a lot of money to Michigan. There's a national championship is a banner that's hanging. There's no doubt winning a national championship in football. I mean, Dan, I realize Michigan can't remember the last time they beat Ohio State in football. But come on, there's banners for winning a national championship. That's forever. 5 years from now, nobody remembers the score of the Ohio State-Michigan game. Come on.
It feels like that's a story for a week when you win a national championship. But the bragging rights of beating Ohio State in football? You're a basketball guy. You're in Indiana. What do you know about football?
Hey, I know from football, pal. I know from football. Tom Allen in Indiana, we're rolling in football.
You're right.
We're better than Michigan in football.
You are. You are. All right, what's the big storyline you take away so far from March Madness?
Dan, I take away a couple things. I take away the Big Ten. Big Ten losing 8 of 9 and doing it badly. You know, I've always said the Big Ten, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but coaches will tell you, man, the Big Ten's best coached league, Big Ten's best scouted league. I got to tell you, there's some bad coaching in this tournament in the Big Ten. And I hate to say it because most of these guys are my friends. Dan, I'm watching Purdue go down, can't make a shot, and they got their 2 best shooters on the sideline. I'm watching Edey, who played great, not even get off the bench. I'm watching Michigan State go down, and they got their 2 best shooters on the sideline, and Hauser and Gabe Brown. I'm watching Illinois. I'm at the Illinois game the other day, Big D, and they don't adjust. My brother, who is an attorney, he's like, why aren't they pressing? Why aren't they doing something? I said, watch. They will in the last 3 to 5 minutes. They did. It didn't matter. I think the Big Ten, Iowa didn't guard all year. Iowa looked incredibly slow. I thought the Big Ten looked incredibly slow. I take that away, and I take that, you know what, Dan, the other thing, defense wins a little bit. Like, I'm watching, and I know they were way overmatched. Abilene Christian was way overmatched against Texas, Dan. Would you agree with this? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You watch basketball. You learn at the feet of me when I do games. I get that, Dan.
Yeah.
You ever seen a more overmatched team physically than Abilene Christian and Texas, and that team wins the game? Not loses, wins the game. You ever seen a more overmatched physically team?
I probably have, but just the recent memory of seeing that was pretty stunning.
It was. So I do. I think, you're here in the Big Ten. You got 9 teams in. You got 1 left, and they all failed miserably. Like, didn't lose to Gonzaga in the tournament. The Big Ten is, I think, the biggest story around here.
And then if you look, like, Loyola's not a Cinderella story.
No.
Syracuse isn't a Cinderella story.
No.
Oral Roberts is a Cinderella story. Is Oregon State a Cinderella story? Is UCLA a Cinderella story?
Dan, we're old enough. I don't care what happens with UCLA. That's not a story. Come on.
I know. It does sound strange to say that with UCLA. But, recent history, though, Cronin's done a really nice job in there. Is USC a Cinderella story?
No, I think USC is a redemption story. I think, when you looked at USC, all you've seen is, involvement, if you really paid attention in that trial. Their name came up a lot. Tony Bland's name came up a lot. I think it's a redemption story. I think Oregon State's a great story. I think, Wayne Tinkle has got, he had his son, was a really good player. He's gone, all of a sudden they catch fire. And that's obviously, Dan, as you and I both know, that's one of the great things about the tournament is you can catch fire. And I think it's a great story. I think UCLA is a story of what should be. Like, UCLA should be there. And I think Mick Cronin, I was talking to Michael Lewis, their assistant, and that's all they talk about. Like, look at these banners. This is what we should be. This is who we should be, Dan. Yeah. So I think they're all great stories in different ways.
I mentioned the Mobley story at USC. This has happened before many times down through the years where you hire somebody, if the dad, and then you're able to bring in players. And it's totally above board, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, look, you go back I mean, whether it's a high school, hell, Bob Knight back in '76. I mean, you'll remember the names, John Laskowski and Tom Abernathy. He hired their high school coach, Bob Donowell. Now, I don't know if he hired him to get those two guys, but this has been going. Ted Owens did it at Kansas for years. Danny Manning. No, this has been going on for years. You know, I never presume because, Dan, I was in this for 20 some years in coaching. And look, everybody tells me that everybody cheats, right? Everything that happens, well, they cheat. I don't know that I've never had anybody come up to me and say, hey, coach, they just gave me $30,000. I've never had that. So look, you hire a guy's dad, you got the players you want, and away you go. It doesn't have to be nefarious.
Yeah, and I just said that, like, Ed Manning got hired, Danny Manning went there.
Right.
We saw that with Michael Porter Sr., Michael Porter Jr. going to Missouri. Like, this has happened down through the years. I think people are just being reintroduced to it when, you know, the Mobleys go there to USC and their dad's on the staff.
Yeah, and you know, we forget the past so quickly, right? And the other thing is, here's the one thing, man. Dan, when you were in college and I was in college, you had 3 assistant coaches, maybe a 4th guy was a volunteer. Now you look at those benches, Dan, there's 800 dudes in suits and sweatsuits, man. I mean, so, you know, what job you hiring them for? I don't know. And I'm not just talking about this situation. I'm talking about other situations. You know, what job there's so many jobs on a bench now. Look, they hired them. They're smart. They're in the Sweet 16. Let me tell you something. At Indiana right now, we'd love to have the dad of somebody on the sideline and be in the Sweet 16. You kidding me?
So who's getting the Indiana job?
I don't know. Look,
who will get it and who should get it? Are those two different questions?
Alford should get the job. My opinion. You're asking me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not asking a regular fan. I've watched Indiana, Dan, for 21 years since Bob Knight, and the program is in no better shape. Look, I know everybody, well, Bob Knight hit a player. Yeah, well, Calvin Sampson got us on probation. Yeah, well, there was 8 million drug tests or failed drug tests. Yeah, well, they haven't won close. The graduation rate isn't any higher. Donors aren't any. The basketball is awful. And every time I look in Assembly Hall and I go into Assembly Hall and I see statues, you know where they're from? The Bob Knight era. I've had enough personally. Of the hot guy. Dan, swear to God, I called Fred Glass, the AD, when they hired Archie Miller, and I said, you just made the worst hire you could possibly make. I said, well, you are making us like everybody else. And frankly, Indiana is like everybody else. Not a lot of great teams.
How do you mean that, though?
How do I mean what?
That you're like everybody else.
Well, here's what I'm saying. There's not a lot of great teams, and there's not a lot of awful teams. There's a ton of teams right in the middle. We have hey, Dan, for 21 years, I thought Tom did a really good job, Karina, bringing us out. But we have no identity.
Yeah.
What's Indiana basketball about? Is it shooting? No. Is it defense? No. Is it tough play? No. It's just another team. And for a guy like me, Dan, that spent 17 years there, like I got to get a hip replacement because of a hit I took. I got to get a knee replacement. I got a bad neck. I want to see an Indiana guy in there. I want somebody that can bring back Indiana basketball's pride. I want to see somebody that can galvanize the fan base. And frankly, the only guy that I see that can do that is Alford. I get that the hot guy just won a game and goes to the Sweet 16. You know what? So did Archie Miller. But as you know, everybody wins a date. Everybody wins a date. So I'm tired of the hot guy here. I'll support him. Hey, look, I got a radio show. I'll do everything for the guy. But I'm tired of the hot guy. I'm tired of the Calvin Sampson comes in, for crying out loud, was on probation when Indiana hired him. On probation, and Indiana hires him in Indiana. Then you get a guy, well, he went to the Final Four with Dwayne Wade. Great. And Tom did a really good job. Then you get a guy, well, he went to the Elite Eight. Who cares? You either can know Indiana, understand it's a different job, or you can't. And to this point in my life, in my way of thinking, it's been 21 years of the hot guy, the outside guy. How's that worked out for us, Indiana? Not very good.
He's Dan Dakich, ESPN college basketball analyst, and has his own show, The Fan, in Indianapolis. We had Rick Pitino on last week, and I asked him if this was his final stop, and he said yes. And my Danette said, no, it's not his final stop. I'm the one guy who said this is Pitino's final stop. All right, Dakich, what side you on? Does Pitino does he have another job?
I had Pitino on my show, and Coach said, "This is my final stop." And Dan, when people tell me things, I listen real close. I'm in between, but I always say gun to head. Gun to head, I say this is his final stop. I'm not sure, though. When he said it, I believed it. But, Dan, let's think about this. Rick Pitino ending his career at Iona. I like Iona. Iona's great. The Gales, Jeff Rulin, yay, Ron, go fight, win. But he's going to end his career at Iona. I'm taking the coach at his word, but I ain't betting on it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I hope he's found happiness after what he went through, and now he understands you got a job back, you got some respect back, you go to the tournament, but egos with you coaches, man.
Hey, Dan, can I ask you a question about Rick Pitino?
All right.
Do you think Rick Pitino's resume is now as good, if not better, than any other than maybe, Wooden and Krzyzewski? And here's why. He leaves in disgrace. He goes out to Greece and wins 2 championships. That's hard to do, man. That's people don't understand the level of play. Then he comes back to this school, and guess what? He takes them to the tournament. I would argue that these last 2 years have done nothing but enhance this man's resume to the point of jumping a lot of people, Dan. What do you think?
I think he's one of the top 5 coaches, and I'm talking about NBA and college. Today, I think Pitino is that good. Now, he's not for everybody, a lot of stops, but the man can coach a basketball game.
If you were an Indiana fan right now, would you want Rick Pitino?
I was going to ask you that question.
Here's what I've said. Give me Brad Stevens. I made this nice soliloquy about it.
He's not coming. He's not coming.
Okay, I know he's not. All right, give me Brad. Give me Tony Bennett. He's turned the job down before. Or I'd do a talk show in Indy. Having Rick Pitino in Bloomington wouldn't be a bad.
It's all about content. It's all about content. You sent me your Final Four. I don't think your Final Four did too well, did it?
No, my Final Four stinks. I really thought going into the tournament, Illinois was playing as well as anybody, including Gonzaga. And Dan, I was at the Illinois game, and I'm telling you, Illinois didn't have a chance in that game. They were not good enough.
They didn't move the ball, Dan. The difference between Loyola's movement and Illinois' was astounding.
Dan, here's the other thing. Okay, that Krautwig kid, right? You're down whatever. They're comfortable as hell. They just throw it to this guy. He stands at the top of the key, surveys, looks around, says, oh, what the hell am I going to do? All right, I'll throw it to you. You'll get a layup. And the other thing, and this is where Loyola's dangerous. They guard you. Williamson, maybe if it seems like every year a Duke player wins Defensive Player of the Year. I think it's Defensive Player of the Year sponsored by Duke. But the best defensive player is this Williamson kid, Dan. He locks it up.
Did they name that? Did they name the Defensive Player of the Year award after Woj? Steve Wojciechowski? I think they did. All you got to do is slap the floor. I think Illinois slapped the floor 3 times against Loyola, and Loyola scored all 3 times when they slapped the floor. How silly is that?
Hey, look, it's one thing to slap the floor because that's what you are. It's another thing to say, hell, I think I'll slap the floor and act like I'm playing defense. Hey, another thing.
Yeah.
Dan, when I look at Oral Roberts, Tom Moore, you know the name Tom Moore, awesome assistant coach in the NFL, should be in the Hall of Fame, everybody says.
Yeah.
Tom Moore always says players, not plays. Late in the game, players, not plays. These 2 guys, I always say the guy's name wrong, Absmus and O'Banner. These 2 dudes got 59 against Ohio State. Now, Ohio State, pretty good on the perimeter defensively. They got 59. They backed it up with 55. Dan, you and I both know the name Harold Archambault and the various guys across the country over the years that just go nuts. They got 2 guys that are balling. So, yes, Oral Roberts is a damn they are a Cinderella, but when you got 2 guys that are going like that against Florida against Ohio State, you got to take them serious. You got to take them very serious.
It's always great to talk to you.
You're the best. Thanks for the text.
Yeah, well, you're kind of lonely.
Can I do a plug? Shameless.
Oh, God. Okay.
Saturday mornings, I do a show on Sirius XM Radio 84. It's combination basketball and Stern. It's unbelievable.
Wait, did you just call yourself unbelievable?
I said the show's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's unbelievable Sirius gave you a job. That's the unbelievable. And I saw your dog. You're just a lonely man. You, your brackets, and a dog.
I'm in a basement, Dan. I'm in a basement with my IU memorabilia.
Oh.
I just sit here and dream of the day I kicked Michael Jordan's ass. You know what I mean, Dan? That's what I do all day.
Did you name your dog Knight? Alford?
No.
Damon Bailey?
I named it Calbert.
Calvert Chaney. Good to talk to you, bud.
You too. Thanks for having me.
That's Dan Dakich. He works at the Mothership and, of course, the Dan Dakich Show on the Fan in Indianapolis.